This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
We come to a place that is so renowned in the world of motorsport, recognizable to any fan. We are here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza here for round 2 of the Maserati GT Challenge. Myself, Adam Reed, I'm alongside Joseph Black. We look into the second round of the Maserati GT Challenge. It's going to be a really interesting round. Of course, as I said, a circuit that has been so renowned. Many changes have been done to the circuit since its inauguration back in the 1920s. Of course, really looking forward to getting this on tonight. Joseph, first of all, we're in for a really brilliant treat here around Monza, aren't we?
Absolutely. It is one of the greatest, if not the greatest circuits around the world. The Temple of Speed, as they call it. And yeah, it's the host of many iconic moments. It is one of the most iconic circuits ever. So very excited to get the action underway.
Absolutely, these guys will be having to deal with a 20-minute qualifying session starting off before then going into their 45-minute race, where of course strategies will be plenty with fuel and tyres to conserve. But overall, yeah, you can see the rounds. We start off at Monza after a brilliant first round of the championship. Then we'll head to starting off at Imola. My apologies on that one. Then we head to Monza, which we're doing this time around, and then we'll head to Misano for the final round of the Maserati GT Challenge on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Really interested to see how these GT2 cars are really going to be attacking this circuit.
Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like last week, they're going to attack it from minute 1, and so the action, or not last week, the week before, but the last round of the season. So it's looking like it's going to be a very exciting race. They managed to make a decent race in the first few laps, at least around Imola and Monza. It's a bit more open to some attacking moves.
It is. Of course, you've got the first 2 chicanes. Of course, then you've got in towards Lesbos, where you may be able to have a go. That's going to be a bit of a difficult one. But then you got the run down towards the Ascari chicane, and in towards that chicane, you could possibly have a move. If there's maybe a mistake out of that chicane, there's also the run down towards the Parabolica, and of course you've got that long straight. There's going to be slipstream galore all the way down this incredible straight.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as you mentioned, slipstream galore. That will be the name of the game today. How much slipstream are they going to be able to take? How long are they going to be able to just run in the slipstream of somebody else? Just bump draft them. I'm sure we'll be seeing a little bit of that tonight down at the main straight. And then a move into turn number 1, a chicane. It's such a long straight followed by such a harsh braking corner. So, it's going to be exciting.
It sure is. Of course, we're in collaboration with GamingMalta, and thank you to our sponsors, Motors Incorporated, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and JACAP. Of course, we will now go into our advert break, but then on the other side, we'll have qualifying, where Slipstream could be anything. We'll claim our second qualifying session, and who will be the one to go out and put it on pole position. We'll see you in a moment's time.
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
And so we get into the 20 minutes of qualifying here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Of course, 11.9 kilometers, 11.8 miles, or 19 kilometers north of Milan. We have 13 drivers out there at this moment in time, and here we ride with 2 weeks ago's winner, Dean Vella. Of course, that number 54 Intercomp VMD Sim Sports Maserati GT2 will be storming towards the Parabolica, and he'll be hoping to replicate what he did 14 days ago. But taking a bit of a dip there in toward the curve of Parabolica and getting the car a little bit unsettled. Not the best awakening to this qualifying session, but there's still plenty of time left on the clock to input your laps and see who'll come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, these are only going to be the bankers at this point in time. You would imagine, although Dean Vella's pace that he had last time out would have been good enough for the front row, if I'm remembering correctly. So Dean Vella, he'll be looking for a similar start to his weekend this time out. Obviously, last time ended so well for him. And just generally the whole weekend went so well for him as well.
Absolutely, he's going to be really going to be on fire with that one. Of course, I'm sure you'd have done plenty of training in the background to try and just keep that championship momentum going. Of course, you need to be in these cars constantly if you are going to try and mount a championship challenge vacancy through the second Rettifilio. The cars just continue to go about their pace and really looking to see what they can get out of this qualifying session. Still testing the limits, seeing the track limits as well. You just see there right in front of that number 7, the number 12 of Samuel Mifsud, that beautiful Maserati Formula E livery, which has really captured my eye from the moment we first saw that head out onto the track in Imola. But these cars are really looking pretty agile at this moment in time, needing to get up to that prime temperature, then going and attacking. Of course, the tyres are going to be endurance tyres, so they will be able to have multiple goes and multiple stabs for getting that pole position. But the tyre temperatures take a little bit longer to get used to and can get up to their prime temperature. It's not like Formula 1 and single seaters where they get up to that prime temperature within a lap time. You need a couple of laps as well as fuel burn to get the best out of these tyres and this setup you currently have. We just had a moment there with Muscat there, Sheldon Muscat, of course, he looked pretty strong in those cars, but in a bit of a couple of difficulties last time around Imola. He'll be hoping to rectify that going into Monza tonight.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's a comeback weekend for a number of these drivers. I know that quite a few of them were quite quick early on, but then they just suffered from issues that they had mid-race. Manduka putting in the fastest lap time so far with a 46.8, the only driver in the 46s. Page is just behind, about half a second behind, with Mifsud 2.1 and Martinelli also 2.1 behind as well. As more times are going to come in, we're still watching on board with Dean Vella, as that was Gat going in with a time that is 3.5 seconds slower. Quattromani slotting in quite nicely in the gap between Martinelli and Gat as well. Gat, who's going to want to improve on the times that his namesake put in last time, as he did not have the weekend he would have wanted. Muscat going slowest, not Sheldon Muscat, the other one, as we've got a few name similarities tonight. Both the Gats, both the Muscats, and both the Vellas are racing this evening. This is Dean, though, and he will be looking for a time to trouble those at the top. As I mentioned, 1:46.867 is the quickest. We'll see with 14 minutes left on the clock what Vella is able to do. He's got one more corner, Parabola to go, and he traverses it quite nicely and then comes out of the exit. What sort of time is he able to set as he comes up to the line? It's a relatively early line up here, and it's going to be a 1 minute 46.6. So pole position, provisionally at least, is going to go Vella's way.
Absolutely, really good times there, and in fact they've beaten the pole laps from the European GT2 Challenge. That was at Monza last year. That pole lap was from actually a 46.3, so not quite beating it at this moment in time. There's still 3/10 drift from that, but they've beaten the Maserati GT2 best time, which was a 1:46.980 that they did around Monza in the European GT2 Championship. So Maserati's continuing to push on here around this beautiful Temple of Speed circuit. There is Samuel Mifsud, and one of the eye-catching liveries of this Maserati GT2 Challenge. He jumps over the curb. You see those big sausage curbs. They have had a little bit of lashback in years gone by, but in the game they're not as big enough to be able to throw these cars into any sort of flips. We saw unfortunately Alex Peroni a couple of years ago in his Formula 3 campaign in 2019, heading straight for the outside barrier for the qualifying session, outside barrier of the final corner, but now heading in towards the left here of the Ascari chicane, named after the two-time Formula 1 world champion Alberto Ascari, who unfortunately at this circuit claimed his life, but he will forever live on in Formula 1 legacy, of course, and this circuit very much really holding his name in that chicane section. Mifsud now heading in towards the final corner and rounds the last corner, and on towards that timing beam to try and get that gap time cut down. 2 seconds adrift from Dean Vella. He goes over the line, improves it, but only by 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, it's not going too badly for these times. They are coming down though. Manduka quickest of all. He's been able to beat out Dean Vella. He's a 10th ahead with Muscat and Page under a second behind. Mifsud going in 1.8 seconds behind pole time, almost exactly 1 second behind George Page. So it's not too terrible. It's actually going pretty well, as you say. Quick times on the board early on, and they're going to try to beat them. Manduka just keeps finding time. He keeps finding a couple of tenths on every single lap, and you'd expect with half the qualifying session to go that he's going to be able to, or just over half even, of the qualifying session. Even better, he's going to be able to find even more time. James Smith comes around the final corner, and he's going to come up to the line. He's 2.5 seconds off Manduka at the moment, and he is going to... Is he going to improve? It's going to be a minor improvement. 2 tenths. He's up to 6th place. Quattramani not able to improve on his last run. And number 444 is going to sit in 8th.
Yeah, he's doing, of course, a newbie to the championship, as well as many others. You see there, Vela Dingley, of course, in there as well. Another driver that's been a new addition to the championship. I think, as I said, another Muscat involved in this. But Gabriel Quattramani really looking to see if he can build something here on these next couple of laps. Still quite the way off Adrian Manduka. You can see there, not quite the same skill levels as the experienced driver, the guys that have already had a race and a qualifying session under their own belt. A little bit wide there through the second Lesmo, through that little section, but they're just trying to see if they can get it up to speed, trying to get the rhythm. It's going to be really important to get into a rhythm around this circuit. If they Quattramani now heads underneath the old oval that was last used in the 1970s, the very early 1970s, used in multiple series, but of course now it is very close to being dismantled. But they've managed to keep the banking, which has been an incredible scene for photographs, and of course it's always something you need to go and visit. If you're ever in Monza and you get to go to the circuit, at some point you have to go and visit the old banking. I have not been there personally myself, but it is one of the coolest things in the entirety of motorsport. The closest thing I've been to is probably Brooklands, of course, in the southwest of London. That's probably the closest you are going to get if you are a UK citizen, but there's nothing like Monza.
No, absolutely. It's just everything combines around Monza. You've got, for example, the fact that it is one of the most iconic tracks. It's definitely the most iconic track in Italy, and in the lineup that we've got as David Vela Dingley actually improves on his time by a second and a tenth as well. I mean, still 2 seconds off the rest of the chasing pack. You can't beat the Italian passion for motorsport. I think that's the main thing around this circuit. It's just there's so much aura in this circuit, and there's so much aura in every single winner here. We talk about people wanting to win Monaco. I'm sure they wouldn't mind winning Monza as well, just to see the passionate fans celebrating their victory. And I'm sure that we'll be seeing at least a couple of game recreations of those passionate fans this evening.
Absolutely, they all come in all different colours, but mainly the main one will be in red. Of course, there was very much a sign of that when we were in the GT3s a couple of months ago on the Velocity Esports channel. You can go back and have a look at them on the YouTube channel as well. The Malta GT Cup, it was always a spectacular series to do, going around the likes of all the European circuits and really getting a feel for how incredible. And also away from Europe, we've been to the likes of Indianapolis and Bathurst, were involved in last time's calendar, as well as Kailami in South Africa. But some of the best circuits out there definitely have to be in Europe, as Sheldon Muscat continues to power his way in his Maserati MC20 GT2 in towards the Ascari chicane, using a little bit of curb there, big amount of curb in fact, as he tries to avoid all the traffic, but it's going to be so difficult there. Just getting out the way. I think that might be Samuel Mifsud in the Maserati Formula E24 livery. It does seem to be so. Heading now in towards that parabolic section, which winds all the way around, connects up the circuit and chains it all up. And hopefully Sheldon Muscat has chained this lap together to the best of his ability. Currently sitting fourth. Can he put himself up? He can. He's half a second off Dean Vella, who's now improved his time and actually gone faster than the actual lap here. Oh, we've got David Vella Dingley in the number 15 Night Racing Maserati, who's unfortunately lost the back end there on the way down and towards the first chicane there. But as I said, yeah, Dean Vella has now officially beaten the qualifying lap from the 2024 European GT2 Championship. Of course, that record was set by Van Aert, and he did a 46.3, and of course now Dean Vella with a 46.2. That is a strong lap here. Daryl Martinelli ventures out of the circuit, currently sitting in a spot good enough for the third row of the grid, but he wants to push that up higher, but it'll be very difficult with the likes of Samuel Mifsud. And look at George Page, he looks to be very much on the pace as well there in his Maserati in the number 7. He's just 7/10 off, just shy of just under 8/10 off, as Martinelli has a bigger moment there, and that number 1 just escaping the wrath of the Armco barrier.
Yeah, very touchy moment for Daryl Martinelli there, and unsurprising that he heads back into the pits. He'll only have the time for a couple of more runs, and with the warm-up that he's going to need to do on the tyres, it's likely to be just the one more competitive lap time that he's going to be able to set. He currently sits with a 1:48.6, which is 2.4 seconds off of Dean Vella at the top of the standings at the moment. Nobody seems to be able to come close to him. Every time Adrian Manduka pulls a lap time out of the bag, Dean Vella just finds something from absolutely nowhere to go just a couple of tenths faster, just to edge a little bit higher and a little bit further away from Manduka, which will have just that mental effect on Manduka. He'll be knowing that Vella's probably in there with a lap time, regardless of what Manduka can set. Maybe even a 2/10 quicker. You said it was an incredible lap time. I completely agree with you, because, yeah, 46.2 is something special. But we've got 4 drivers within a second. George Page, the last of the lot, with 0.78 seconds separating him and Vella as well. Manduka, speaking of, is on a push lap, and he's got just one more braking zone to go, and then the finish line will await the Aversio driver. Here's the braking zone now. You can see the rear lights turning on as he heads into the final corner, and then out of it, what can Adrian Manduka do? Can he go out and beat Dean Vella's time? The benchmark lap is a 46.2, and Manduka doesn't improve. He's going to go once again, a 46.5, I believe that was, and yes, he's going to have to go all over again.
Absolutely, he's going to have to continue to just go on his run and see if he can do something about those times here. Looking at George Page continuously just trying to outpace his own lap here, really just chasing the time. We now tick down to the last 4 minutes. Chris Gatz has not been able to get a lap time on the board. I don't know if he's having trouble with the track limit or if there's some other reasons why he's been out there at this moment in time. George Page off the row. I think he's pulling off to return back to the pit lane, and I think that might be his qualifying session done and dusted. And Chris Gap, I think, is also in pit lane. I just saw there David Vella Dingley. Oh, and that's going to be Cliven Muscat who's going to be spinning around. He's still not quite used to these Maserati GT2 cars. There you go. Chris Gatt, in fact, has gone over the line. He's put himself up into 11th. But he still needs to do a little bit extra to try and dig deep and see if he can put himself in a bit of a better position. He's got Dean Vella, so he'll be able to follow the current fastest driver on the circuit, get his braking reference, get his turning reference, to hope, and also be getting a bit of a slipstream as well, a bit of a tow. unless he loses a little bit of touch behind that number 54 car. But that is a car that seems to be pretty stable and pretty much on the rails, as Dean Vella in that Intercomp VMD Simsport number 54. That time is really showing, but Manduka, Muscat, Page, they're all going to try and chase that, but it'll be a big task to try and bridge that gap and just try and find any sort of time they can out of the Magic Hats.
Yeah, and it'll be certainly impressive if they're going to be able to get up with Dean Vella. I'm sure he's going to be sitting pretty at the top of the table as we come to the final runs. We've got time for 1 and a little bit more laps, so those that are in sector 3 at the moment, including Dean Vella, will have one more crack at it. But with just over 2 minutes left on the session, this is really now or never for most of them. I think there's 2 drivers in the pits. This will be the end of their sessions, because by the time they're out of the pits with the tyres warmed up, they will have run out of time. They will have missed the break points, and they won't be able to improve on it. Vella looks comfy for this pole position, but he's got 3 drivers with the pace to try and compete with him. Dean Vella up to the line. What is he able to do? Is he able to improve on it? No, it's not. It's another 46.2. Or maybe that might be a 46.3. I think that might be my eyes playing tricks on me. I think that was a 46.3. But still, to be able to put a lap time, that would still be pole positioning more than once in a session. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're really pushing the limits here around this circuit. They have to, because you're only going to get 1 lap time in. I think the last driver that will cross the line, it will be either Daryl Martinelli, or it will be the number 15 on Daniel Vella Dingley, who has just managed to get out there. We know that Gabriel Quattromani will not be able to get a lap time in. Neither will the other. That's not Chris Gatt. Chris Gatt there in 11. I think the other Gatt as well. Of course, we found out that there's very similar second names in the world of in Malta. So yeah, we found two second names who weren't actually related, but they did have the same second name. That was an interesting find, especially for us, where we have, well, in the UK, we have some very widespread of second name, but you can see they're ticking down to the last 28 seconds, and it does look like that number 15 of Vella Dingley will be able to get that last lap, but it looks like James Smith has come into the pit lane. So is Adrian Manduka. So Manduka is backed out of his lap time. So has Sheldon Muscat. So it doesn't look like they're able to give anything either. Dean Vella is also into the pit lane as well. Will George Page be able to do anything? So another car that is slowing. That seems to be the number 12 there, or Samuel Mifsford. It looks like Page into the pits as well. And nobody seems to be improving. I think that's a very slow number 4 there of Chris Gatt, who's just trying to see if he can etch anything out of the times. He's just coming out of that parabolic corner and on towards the timing beam. Can he put himself up from the 11th place spot? No, he can't. He pulls over to the side of the road and unfortunately will not improve. He will start on the 5th row of the grid alongside the other one of the other Muscat, not Sheldon, but there you can see that is pretty much it. That is pretty much qualifying, and we're waiting for our final car of Cliven Muscat, who's about to cross the timing beam. He's also on the 5th row of the grid. Can he throw that car any further up the field, or we wait across to see the timing beam? And unfortunately no time improvement there, so it will be Dean Vella for the second time on a pole position, with Adrian Manduka and Sheldon Muscat, the trio that cannot seem to be separated. They're going to be going at it again here in Monza, but George Page could be very much a dark horse. Just have to wait and see what happens when we do get round to the race. But Joseph, an awesome qualifying session, so much to kind of digest as well.
Yeah, that was just a demonstration of how good quality the drivers are in this little mini series we've got going on, with, obviously, as you mentioned, it beat the real life GT2 times. So yeah, very, very quality stuff. Dean Vella right at the top once again. Adrian Manduka playing second fiddle once again, but those two should have a good tussle as we head into a race day.
Absolutely, they'll really look to potentially go at it hammer and tongs. I think that thing that, of course, Muscat will be very much one to keep an eye out for, but I think Manduka will be the one who really wanted to go on the attack. We've got an ad break coming up, but after this, it will be race time here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza.
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
And here we are, 45 minutes ahead of us, and we go for the rolling lap here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. It is going to be Dean Vella starting on pole position with Adrian Manduka starting alongside him. I can sense a really good battle ahead of us tonight with those two, especially going at it down towards turn number one. I think Sheldon Muscat will be very much aware that he's also got to get involved in the action, especially Frizzy Sports Team, Intercomp, VMD Sim Sports. But we do have a really good race ahead of us. My name is Adam Reed. Alongside me is Joseph Black, and tonight we will produce the second round of the third of 3 rounds here of the Maserati GT Challenge.
Yes, and it's set to be one of the more exciting circuits around the world. All 3 of them are quality circuits, but there's nothing like Monza. You mentioned it earlier, I'll mention it again. There's absolutely nothing like Monza. It is such an incredible circuit, just full of mystique, full of aura, and just full of just pure racing. which we've seen over a number of years around the circuit. And we got another incredible battle lined up tonight.
Absolutely. This circuit has been opened for over 100 years. Over 100 years of racing around in a little park that started off, of course, is now being carved into one of the greatest racing circuits the world has ever seen. Some may have a little bit of disfondness to it due to its plain straight lines and lack of elevation. But what you can get out of Monza is a brilliant race. And as I said, we're going to get that all the way down the field tonight.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. The overtaking opportunities around Monza are like no other. You think about all the slipstream down into Parabolica and then down into turn 1. That could give you a huge boost. Some might even gamble and move into Ascari, would you believe it? But yeah, the main overtaking opportunity will be that turn number 1 heading into the chicane. It's incredible speed into low speed. It's who is able to be later on the brakes, and it really tests the driver's guts.
It does, and you have to really be full out around here. You cannot give an inch to rest your opponent, because if they spot an inch, they'll steal it and take a mile away from you. And listen, we are about to get into formation. Of course, the Parabolica recently renamed to the Curva Michele Alboreto. Of course, the second in the all-time wins list for Italians driving for Ferrari. Well, you ask who the first is? Well, Alberto Ascari, who's already had a corner placed in his name. Of course, that beautiful chicane where we could see some action. The grid is now about to get into formation here. It has just hit past 2 p.m., 6 minutes past 2. At the Italian Temple of Speed, this absolute powerhouse of a circuit. And we will be getting 13 powerhouse cars about to attack this brilliant circuit. 2 by 2 by 2, and we will get a big old room of these V6 bi-turbo 6-speed sequential gearboxes with 630 brake horsepower underneath their right foot. The green flag is going to be at the ready, and we wait for the line to come upon us. 45 minutes on the clock. We are steady. We will go racing here at Monza. The green flag has been dropped, and the charge down to turn 1 begins. Dean Vella will now be looking to his outside line for where does Adrian Manduca attack. The car is going to be there on that outside line, so we will have to give space. Who will be last on the late brakes here? Look at Manduca. We thought it would happen. He goes and attacks into the corner, and he will look to open that up now. And look at Sheldon Muscat. They're almost three wide going at it, but it looks like no speed there for, it looks like Dean Vella. Dean Vella just not being able to get the speed, and they're heading toward into the Segunda della Rocha, towards the chicane they go. George Page wants to go, but he's got to be very, very careful, and late braking there. Oh, I think we're going to be seeing a little bit of side-by-side action. I think that might be John Smith there, but through goes Page. Unbelievable on the opening lap in towards Lesmo 1, and a beautiful move from Page puts him up into the early race lead.
Incredible move there from George Page, fully deserving of that race lead, and he's going to try to now hold on to it with all the slipstream going on. There's a huge crash behind this. Yellow flag's up. Not sure who that is. David Vella Dingley looks involved in that one. We will get more information as it comes out, but George Page continues to lead this one. The top 3 within 6/10 of each other. It's incredibly close racing here, and Page with the guts, with the guile to make that move early on, and he makes it stick. Vella and Manduca are going to go side by side into Parabolica. This is Manduca around the outside, Vella to the inside. Who's going to be later on the brakes? It's going to be Manduca. Can he hold on to it? No, Vella squeezes him out. There's contact between the two. Off goes Manduca, and he's going to have to go at it all over again. Turn number 1 will beckon for both of these drivers, and it will also beckon for the race leader, George Page, who's now just under a second ahead. But look at that slipstream effect that Manduca will have. He pulls to the outside line. This could be the move. Who's later on the brakes? This time, it's going to be Vella. He's going to send it and hold on to the position. Incredible defensive move, and it means that Manduka's still chasing his tail.
And also Sheldon Muscat must have been involved in something, because he's now behind James Smith, who now finds himself up into a brilliant forward play. Daryl Martinelli will be in chase here, but Manduka wants to go to the outside once again. Will he potentially try a switchback coming out of the Segunda de la Rocha? They hop over the sausage curve, but nothing in doing. Just keep on to the rear of that Maserati, Manduka, and your time will come. It's just about being patient, but he knows the lead is getting away from him. George Page continuing to stride up at the front here. 1.2 seconds between himself and Dean Vela. It seems like we will get an update, and they head their way up towards the Ascari chicane. George Page looks very relaxed behind the wheel. He's just got to keep himself in the rhythm, in the momentum here, with Vela just chasing in behind. I think that's also going to be Sheldon Muscat looking for an outside overtake here on James Smith, and clean as you like, the number 14 has in fact got past that number 13 car. Oh, he's off into the gravel, just about held on. Wow, Sheldon Muscat, he may need a change when he gets when he leaves the simulator tonight. He's going to open a gap up here for James Smith. Oh, my goodness. Oof. That was a moment. Now just go about your race.
Yeah, really edge of the seat stuff for Sheldon Muscat, but he's been able to hang it. At the moment, he's going to try to continue. He's half a second ahead of James Smith, but the slipstream effect is going to come into it down the main straight. We've already seen a move made, or attempted at least, by Adrian Manduka on Dean Vela using that slipstream, and we could be seeing James Smith trying to make that move. Speaking of Manduka, he's still close behind Vela, who's now dropped behind 1 second behind Page. So Page demonstrating that not only does he have the guts and the guile to make a move, he also has that incredible pace just to break free of the top two in qualifying. So, well, and he also holds the fastest lap as well. So, not bad going for George Page at the moment, with 5 minutes gone in this session. And Vela and Manduka form up the chasing pack. Vela, a little bit of an off-road moment, which will break his momentum, and it means that Manduka will try to come back into it. There's 3 straights only broken up by the Ascari chicane and Parabolica, and surely we will see a move made here, or at least another move attempted. They head now down to Ascari. Manduka not quite close enough, but this isn't where you look to make those moves. Vela has gained actually quite a lot on Page in that second sector. He's gained 4 whole tenths. The pit window is now open for all the drivers. If they do want to come into the pits, Vela goes a little bit wide. Manduka, once again, he will get an opportunity to hold the pressure onto him, but he's not going to go for that move, just trying to force a mistake. But around the final corner they go. Vela, Manduka still fighting away. Vela might even try to have a go at Page. Attack is the best form of defense, and Vela might exercise that. He's 5 tenths behind Page. Manduka is 4 tenths behind him, and actually they seem to be sitting line astern.
Do seem to be, of course. If you need a reminder, there is a mandatory stop that needs to be made by every driver, so it will be about when do you want to take that pit stop and change your race. Here comes Gabriele Quattromani, really getting involved with the action here in the GT2s. His first taste of the Maserati GT Challenge. A little bit wide there for Muscat. It seems like in that 555, the 555 leading the 444. But Quattromani trying to find a way through, but George Page has been very much a man trying to soak up the pressure. Of course, you see there 3 tenths of a second separating him, Vela and Manduka. The last time we crossed a timing beam. Gabriele Quattromani. Ooh, dear, that's going to be a gap there. He's gone round, and unfortunately, I think he's done the same mistake there, as Chris Gap will now fly on through. He is going to put himself up towards P9 there, so really unfortunate there, but it looks like at this moment in time, Adrian Manduka has taken the fastest lap here, but Dean Vella is really becoming a thorn in the side of George Page. They exit out of that Ascari chicane. Has he got a run now to try and nab that lead back here? He'll need, of course, Page will be hoping that Manduka is somewhere close by to try and create that 3-car battle, and hopefully Vella and Manduka will start scrapping, trying the outside line here for Page to try and get a run, but it looks like they're going to be using the side draft. Is Dean Vella, who's going to get that power all the way down. There's a bit of contact, in fact, between the two cars, and that's going to mean that Dean Vella is going to be just etching his way into the lead with the fastest lap of the race, and they head their way down in toward the Rettifilio chicane here. Oh, again, they're side by side. Wow, in toward the chicane, and we'll just try and muscle out the number 54, but it looks like Dean Vella has taken back the lead of the race. He looks to go for 2 for 2 in the Maserati GT Challenge, but he won't be giving up this easy. George Page trying to open up that gap on that outside line, but Vella says absolutely no you don't. Cut it to the inside, trying the outside. Can he brake late enough? A little bit of a side bash there. Oh, I think there's a bit of contact between the two cars. It is really going rough and tough, and has somebody gone round? There's yellow somewhere. It is Dean Vella. Vella's gone round. Unbelievable. And there is the stricken car of Dean Vella. I think he may have hit the curb. He did. He hit the sausage curb on the inside. That launched him into the side of George Page, and now he found himself stuck on the left-hand side, just waiting for cars to open up, a gap to open up. What dramatic scenes in the first 10 minutes of this race. Unbelievable stuff, but George Page will not be alone because he does have Adrian Manduka bearing down on him in these very early stages.
Yeah, and that's Daryl Martinelli going very, very wide, missing the Ascari chicane and coming back out just behind. We will watch a replay now of, I believe this is Martinelli's moment, where he just continues straight on. Indeed it is. He does well actually to stay out of the back of the car in front, but Dean Vella, our championship leader, our victor last time out, has a lot of work to do sitting in P7, and as you mentioned, Manduka keeping Page for company. Sheldon Muscat 1.8 seconds behind, so he has closed that gap to the top two, but I'm sure he will be desperate to try to get back into it. Dean Vella's gained an entire second on Samuel Mifsud on that last lap, so he has had a fire lit under him.
He has really got a fire as well. As you say, there's a lot to still be up at stake here. Of course, Adrian Manduka there in the Project Aversio livery, beautiful as ever. You can also see Project Aversio batting it out in the Velocity Ultimate Masters. That happens, I believe, on Thursdays. They're looking pretty good, are the Maltese team, but they're still quite the way back in the championship. But continuing with our GT challenge, I think Manduka will really be just trying to whittle down the gap between him and George Page. He's now seen that his biggest rival of Dean Vella, the biggest opportunist to go and take this win, has been unfortunately for that number 54 car knocked out of contention, and will require a big comeback to try and retake this lead. But he is indeed struggling. We did see that, of course, Daryl Martinelli went off, and of course that did happen in front of Vella. Vella has got quite the way to catch up to the lack of Samuel Mifsud. But with a run here out of the Ascari chicane, Manduka's eyes will be widening open here and see if he can potentially make a move very, very soon. You just got to pile on the pressure, keep at it, and see where George Page is very weak, and I think he needs to use that to his momentum, to his advantage, and really just try and nab it off the number 7.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting race from here on in, because Page had that pace early on, but Manduka's had the pace so far throughout this weekend, with now Vella out of contention, you would imagine, even though he is now just half a second behind Mifsud and expecting to make a move. He's actually made that move in the last sector, and his charge is back on, but with the gaps like James Smith's 6.5 gap up to the podium, it's unlikely that he's going to come back into it. But at the moment, Manduka, with Vella out of contention, is the quickest driver over this weekend, and he'll be looking to demonstrate that pace over George Page. I wish his name was actually pronounced Pace, because that would be so good for puns. But as it stands, his name is actually pronounced Page, which makes it slightly more difficult to make a joke like that. But anyway, Manduka has that Page over Page, and he will try to make that move after Lesmo 2. He's got a straight to come up, and he's right on the rear, both going a little bit off circuit, just to try and slingshot themselves down the straight. What can Manduka do? He's just 2/10 behind now. He's looking to the inside, but we've seen these moves attempted before. He looks as though he's just trying to force a mistake out of Page, heading into Ascari, and it was futile. He'll now head down the next straight and try to do, most likely, exactly the same thing. Just sitting in the slipstream, almost bump drafting him. You can see how close they are on the circuit. If he doesn't make a move into Parabolica, he will surely attempt one after the main straight into turn number 1. They'll come around the final corner. They will be very, very close together as they cross the line. I'm sure it will be maybe even under a tenth as they come across the line. Now, what is it? It's going to be just under 2/10. But Manduka now right on the rear, pulling to the inside line. This is the attempt for the move for Adrian Manduka. Who's going to be later on the brakes? It's going to be Manduka, but is he going to outbrake himself? No, he's going to hold on to that move incredibly. And Adrian Manduka now is the new race leader.
It was a clean move there by Adrian Manduka, well thought through. Of course, just sitting in that tone, that's exactly what catapulted him into this race lead. A couple of battles in behind involving, I believe that's going to be Daryl Martinelli and Dean Vella, of course, the Project Aversia. No, it's my error. That was Intercomp VEM team with Dean Vella involved in that one. He's trying to get it past Daryl Martinelli, and I wonder but both Vella and George Page, who are in very difficult positions at this moment in time. Oh, he's actually gone and done the same thing. He's hit the inside curve there and gone into the side of Daryl Martinelli. He's got past, in fact, the number 1 of Daryl Martinelli, and now he's going to try and attack here James Smith, who seems to be running an LP Racing team livery, very similar to what Valentino Rossi has been using in his BMW M4 GT3. You can see the very similar kind of colours in that one, with the dark blue, the green as well. So as Dean Vella now shoots past up into P4, really now looking to try and make something happen. But I wonder for both George Page and Dean Vella, in pretty difficult scenarios at this moment in time, where George Page knows that he's a tad slower than Adrian Manduka, I wonder if there'll be a potential to try and undercut, to try and catch up to Manduka. Dean Vella could also do the same. Just get off those tyres, which are going to start getting pretty worn out and pretty mangled in terms of tyre life. Of course, they've got a few flat spots on them as well, I assume, from that spin. But we see now Daryl Martinelli looking to attack James Smith. Dean Vella, I think, will be looking to potentially try and undercut, then see if he can maybe go on pace with Muscat, because he'll be on fresh tyres, he'll be quick out the boxes. I think there'll be a big possibility for Vella to do something there. There's a stopped car, and I wonder if that is somebody. I think that might be the number 2. It does seem to be down there in 13th and last. Pretty stare and die, it seems to be there. So it looks like they've had a bit of a difficult scenario. And there is David Vella Dingley, who's been involved in the wars, it seems like, from the front end. Potentially, I think he also got involved in the first corner skirmish as well, up at Lesmo 2 on the first lap.
Yeah, not been his day. Not been either of the Vella's day, it seems. And now, yeah, Dean Vella, who is 15 seconds off of Gat ahead of him. It's not been ideal for him. And yeah, I mean, his namesake, for him, not gone his way, but he's doing quite well, actually, to fight back into it. And he is now 9.3 seconds behind Muscat with those tyres, as you say, that probably have a few dodgy spots on them now. Well, when he comes into the pits, he might be incredibly even quicker. We're watching Daryl Martinelli and James Smith scrap away for that P5 spot. They're 1.6 seconds behind Vella, and that only seems to be increasing. Mifsud 1.3 seconds behind. So if they have any sort of scrap that goes any sort of wrong, then he will be able to swoop through and possibly take both positions. They head down the main straight. Do Martinelli and Smith will see what the gap is between themselves and Vella. It's 2.3. So Vella 8 tenths quicker than James Smith behind him, who's on pace around P5 looks about right. So the pace that Vella's got is just so incredibly sensational, and hats off to him for just getting his head down, getting back going, because I know he was probably rattled by that incident, but you never know. He could come back into the battle for this lead. Manduka, by the way, 2.1 seconds now ahead of Page, so the pace that he's had over second place has been exemplary.
Well, he does know that he's had some really, really good pace there as Team Vela, and I think he's going to very much use that to his advantage. He's already just trying to pull away from that squabbling duo of James Smith and Daryl Martinelli, because he wants to be going up the road and see if he can get any form of podium in this race. They're just using every single piece of tarmac he possibly can to try and catch up to the likes of Muscat and Page. As you see there now on your screens, Adrian Manduka in the Project Reverse Show 1 livery, just heading over towards the, of course, the final corner of the Parabolica. He's now gained, he's now reached a gap of 2.5 seconds over George Page there. So Page not quite up to speed with the likes of Manduka, with the likes of your Dean Velas. I think that's going to be so important to kind of, for him to be able to improve. He's going to be wanting to see that he can fight for wins. He just needs that little bit of an edge about him. They carried their way on towards the next lap here. I believe also now we see ourselves ticking down to 26 minutes remaining of this race, and I think George Page is now starting to find himself looking behind here towards Sheldon Muscat. 1.7 seconds the gap between those two as they continue to just work their way to each other. It looks like Muscat is just slowly with that grappling hook he's got attached onto the back of George Page. I think he's now just trying to pull himself in, and then they'll be able to have a quabble over second place. But I think before then we'll have pit stops. George Page now, look at that, 2.7 seconds. So Manduka really on the charge. We hit the 10th lap of this race. Back to this quabbling, this duo of James Smith and Daryl Martinelli. Look at that in the background. That's Samuel Mixford in the number 12 Maserati. He is really trying to make something happen, and we see Martinelli continuing to work his way onto the back of James Smith. There could be a really positive result here for both Smith and Martinelli, who aren't the fastest drivers in the championship, but they are making some really good haywood. They're really making their way into this race, really making some great results, making some really good lap times as well. They constantly look to improve their racecraft on Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. I'm sure they'll be up there with the top lot in a few, maybe even in a few months' time. But I mean, they've got to be there, and they're doing incredible on that timing board. Because I know that I would probably be down at the bottom DNF'd, which is generally how my races tend to go on Assetto Corsa. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the fact Sheldon Muscat has closed in even more, and George Page is surely going to be within that range very, very soon. And Page is surely going to be thinking about Muscat behind more than Manduka ahead, especially as he's lost a 10th and, well, he's lost a 10th to Manduka, and he's lost a 10th to Muscat as well. We'll see where Dean Vella is. At this point, last lap he was 9.1 seconds behind. That seems to have stabilised once again. So maybe he is going to think about the undercut soon. Quattromani is in the pit lane at the moment. So, I mean, it could be that, I know the actual pit window is open, but it could be that the strategic pit window is open as well.
Absolutely, I think that that pit stop from Quattromani has really opened up the doors here, as it looks like that's George Page trying to go around that Adrian Manduka. It does seem to be. So Manduka has made an error here in this race here, and now George Page has gone back ahead. That was completely caught both of us off guard, and Manduka had dropped to place once again here. My goodness me, this just seems to be going in the way of George Page, and once again again now will have to play the defensive role as he now looks to potentially try and keep the lead, but it'll be very, very difficult with that Citri, with that number 93 just sitting in the toe. He'll open that gap up on the inside line, but how will he go? Will he go for a bit of a dive bombing move here? But it doesn't. We'll have to see as he heads now in towards the Premier. Chicane, what I'm trying to say in Italian, but of course I'm not Italian. I'm not sure if you noticed, but yeah, now it looks like a couple of drivers have been making their pit stops here. We see that Quattramani have made a stop. We see that Muscat has made a stop, and not Sheldon, the other Muscat. So Daryl Martinelli and Samuel Mifsud are both in to make their mandatory stop. And again, George Page just keeping in front there of that 93. Dean Vella will also be looking at this, but of course he looks to drop back down to 9.6 seconds. So not ideal for that number 54.
Yeah, not ideal for Dean Vella at all. I think this is where that damage is going to start to hurt him. And even further as the race will go. And I think now is around the time where he should be pitting. Martinelli, Mifsud and Gat are all coming into the box on this lap as we just brush over the halfway point of this race. Now seems to be the right time for the drivers to come into the pits. We'll see with George Page, Adrian Manduka and Sheldon Muscat all within DRS range of each other. Of course, we aren't using DRS range, but that 1 second is a good marker. They are all within range of each other as they head out of the final corner. The question is, who pulls the trigger first? Is it going to be Page, Manduka or Muscat, or none of them? It's actually going to be Manduka who's the first one to dive into the pits. And the number 93 will drop down the order as he straps on a new set of boots and gets ready to go once again. Will we be seeing Dean Vella into the pits? That is something we will have to wait and see. Indeed we do. So it appears that the time is now for the undercut to be taken.
I think if you're Page and Muscat, you're going to want to react here. You'll take on a little bit of less fuel as well, because of course you've gone that lap further. So actually you'll be sitting in there a little bit, maybe a little bit shorter as well. So it'll be really interesting in terms of strategy. That is going to be the number, I believe that's the number, is that 8? No, sorry, that's 3 there. So that is going to be the other Gat in there as well. There's Dean Vella in the pit lane here. Sheldon Muscat continues to get up to the back here of George Page. They head their way in towards Lesmo 2, and then down the Seraglio, of course, named after a town very much nearby to the Parco di Monza, where we are racing at now. Of course, George Page will be looking at that that back marker there, the number 3 of Gat, and he'll be saying, "Get out of the way! I don't want to be dealing with you." The blue flags will be waved, but of course, it looks like Gat is not obliged to let him through, but he has done indeed, just to avoid a little bit of stress on the shoulders of George Page. I think they can drop just that little bit until he gets out of the pit lane. Now, coming round that last corner, will we be seeing any of these cars diving off into the pit lane? They do have 14 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. They're both in. They've reacted to both Manduka and Vella. Game on, and we enter the pit lane here in Monza.
Absolutely game on. We'll see how good the outlaps of Vella and Manduka have been. And at the moment, it looks as though Vella's has been much better than Manduka. And he currently is the driver sitting in P3. But he's got quite a lot of the circuit, about half of the circuit to go before he's able to challenge Page and Muscat. So they will be wheeling their pit crews on, hoping that they're able to get out before both Vella and Manduka pass them in the pit lane. We'll have to wait and see. They've got 3 corners to go, 2 of which being the Ascari chicane. So, well, now it's just a waiting game to see who's in that prime position. Page and Muscat will have the better tyres, but Vella and Manduka will have nice and warm ones that they will be able to try to go and use around the final corner now. Heads Dean Vella, George Page coming out of the pit lane. He will be able to get the pedal to the metal right about now as Vella comes round the final corner. This is going to be tighter than I'm sure they would have liked. Page now is going to be out into the race lead. Sheldon Muscat now is able to get back up to full speed. I think it's going to be very close between Muscat and Vela as they head now to turn number 1. There blasts Sheldon Muscat. He is going to hold on to that P2 spot. Vela and Manduka not having the outlap that they would have wanted, although Manduka especially not having the outlap he would have wanted. But Vela has been able to come back into range of Sheldon Muscat and George Page, who's just over a second ahead. So I'd say mission successful for Vela.
Absolutely. It's going to be really interesting to see what some of the drivers here have gone with. Of course, we did have a moment. Sheldon Muscat will be very aware of his moment in Zolder last time he went there. Of course, decided to go all fuel, no tyres, and unfortunately was in the lead for quite the way, and then of course got caught up to Adrian Manduka, and that was one of 2 wins that Manduka took in the Malta GT Cup. He won't want to recreate that again, but it will be the number 7 apart from Muscat Umbrella from Manduka. But I do wonder if Manduka is taking on more fuel to try and get through this race and just try and blast it all the way through. But yeah, that will not be an ideal scenario for the 93 in the Project Aversio as he cuts his way through the chicane of Ascari, and he'll now look to try and latch onto the back of Dean Vela. But yeah, the 2 VMD SimSport drivers will really be going at it here. They're separated by only 1.2 seconds. I think when we get a refresh over the line, George Page managed to find his way a long way away. So I wonder what was kind of the key in that doing so, because he now found himself 8 seconds. I would love to know what was the difference between George Page's stop and Adrian Manduka's, and why the gap is so extraordinarily large, because I didn't expect that Manduka would be, well, you know, over 12 and a half seconds behind George Page, when in fact they were very much toe to toe going before Manduka made and jumped into the pit stop. But now we see the 2 Intercomp VMD SimSport drivers having a big go here, and I think Vela will be more fired up than Muscat, because he knows that there is a place to reclaim here, and that is going to be second place, a place that he lost very early on in the race.
Yes, this is the opportunity for Dean Vela. He's had that momentum now. It's come back with him just because of how much he's had to push, and now he's just going to try and swat Muscat by, but Muscat is not one to be swatted by, and he's going to try to fight for this position as much as he can. They head into Ascari now. That could be a late move for Dean Vela down the inside. He's going to back out of it. But just trying to keep the pressure on Muscat, just trying to catch him off guard, just as he caught me off guard. But now as they head into Parabolica, surely this is the move now for Dean Vela. It's either here or down the main straight. It's a gamble if he makes this move here, because that slipstream will be available to him. And he is actually going to wait for said slipstream down the main straight. They will both head now, trying to get the exit out of the final corner. And they both had a pretty decent one. Vela staying in that slipstream, but for how much longer is he going to stay in before he steps out and uses that momentum, uses the overspeed that he's got? It's going to be right about now, pulling to the inside line. Dean Vela to the inside. Muscat's going to defend to the outside. Who's going to be later on those brakes? It's going to be Dean Vela who takes that P2 spot. And now 8.7 seconds separates him and the race lead. The race lead that he lost also cruelly to a mistake earlier on. And now he will certainly feel as though Page is in reach.
Absolutely. I wonder if he's going to drag Sheldon Muscat along with him for the ride and see if they can potentially shut down that gap. But look at that, 9.3 seconds between George Page and Dean Vela. That has gone up drastically the last time we looked. I think just because that battery, Dean Vela has lost about 7 or 8 tenths in this first sector alone. So George Page have been pulling absolute miracles in the last couple of laps here. Adrian Manduka will be looking at this battle saying, I want to get through this as quickly as I possibly can, because he has got to try and potentially close maybe a second a minute, maybe a little bit less than that. But at least I'd say 8/10 a minute to try and close in on that, 8/10 a minute to try and close that gap between himself and George Page. And the first thing he's going to do is try and get past Sheldon Muscat. Easier said than done, because Muscat had put himself into the Arco barrier. Has he come through? It looks like he's just stayed ahead here of Adrian Manduka. Manduka be looking at that like, just let me go through, mate. You've already been in the wall once. You don't need to go in again. And I think he just wants to get through here in this race. It is such a tough blow there for Sheldon Muscat. I think he'll be wanting to go back to BMW M4 GT3 straight after this race.
I'm sure he will, because that will be his comfort zone. But there's still moves being attempted. That is Manduka still sitting behind Sheldon Muscat. He attempted one into turn number 1, but just stays behind for now. And, well, the number 93, as you say, he will be frustrated. He will be desperate to get back onto that podium. And I'm sure that move will again be attempted some point soon, as that's Vela lagging all over the circuit. Or maybe that may have just been a little bit of reverberation from the curbing. That is particularly vicious over those corners. We'll have to wait and see, as that's Muscat oh so slow. And Manduka unable to pounce, actually being harmed by Muscat's lag. By the way, Vela has made it to within 8.7 seconds between himself and Page, and he's going to come across the next sector split time. We will see how much he has closed in by, but Manduka's closing on Muscat, pulling to the outside line. Are they going to make a move into Ascari of all places? No, he's not. He stays behind just for another lap. Vela, by the way, 5/10 in that final sector. He's certainly closing in, and there is a fight on right at the end of this race.
Absolutely, and I think that you can see that Manduka was sensing that Muscat was going to go and have a bit of a moment through there, but George Page seemed to be very comfortable out in the lead. I don't think he'll be wanting to lift off the pedal anytime soon, but Manduka, you can see that, just trying to push the Intercomp VMD Sim Sport car all the way through the Parabolica and on towards the first chicane, powering their way down using all 630 brake horsepower in this car on towards Prima Variante. They'll just try and brake as late as they possibly can, but that wide moment there for Sheldon Muscat, just caught on the curbing there. Round the outside goes Adrian Manduka. Job done. On to the next, Dean Vela, who's 5 seconds up the road here, and as well a back market to get involved as well. So it looks like that Dean Vela will be having a little bit of a breathing space here between himself and Manduka. And you see the gaps are looking pretty lethargic at this moment in time. I'm sure there'll be something to try and chase here. Dean Vela has been really trying to shut that gap down, I think, as well. I'm just having a look at the yellow car there in the top right there of the map. I think that is this car at this moment in time. Muscat there. So Muscat passes Muscat, as you just see right about now. But yeah, I think that Vela will be really looking to try and shut that gap down. 7 seconds he's got. It's still possible, but again, he's just got to pull out all the stops here to try and make that work. And we've also got another back marker, so a bit of frustration there for Manduka. This will not be the ideal scenario as either, as it looks like Muscat just try and go around the 555 that's currently in their way of hopefully some clear air and the enable the gate open to try and flood through and go and take on Vela. But again, these gaps will be very tough to try and bridge.
Yes, because once you fall out of that slipstream here in Monza, it does become very, very difficult to get back into it. I mean, we see it all the time in Formula One, where once that DRS is broken, that is game, set and match. And here it could be particularly similar, although Dean Vela not demonstrating that with 9 minutes left. He's 6.8 seconds behind George Page. Keep your eyes peeled, ladies and gentlemen, on those timing boards, because I'm sure those gaps will continue to come down. 6.8 between Page and Vela, with 8 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. Manduka further 6 seconds back with Muscat still applying the pressure. He's been pretty consistent throughout this race, even if he's not the fastest driver. and so hats off to him, and he's still in the fight for a podium with under 10 minutes to go. The number 14 still trying to go at it behind Adrian Manduka, but Manduka has just been one of two of the fastest drivers this weekend, one of three if you're including our race leader Page as well, and I ultimately wouldn't be surprised if that race victory was taken by one of those three. But Muscat still in contention for this podium, and I wouldn't be surprised as well if he was able to take it. I would be quite happy actually, because he will be able he'll be able to celebrate it. It was very, very hard earned, but this is your man George Page in the race lead at the moment. He finished P4 last time out, and he's looking to stand on the top step of the podium to try to take it with Vela and Manduka 1 and 2 last time out. They are 2 and 3 at the moment, and Page looking to get back into this short championship battle.
Absolutely. I think George Page is also doing a little bit of fuel saving as well. Of course, you can see that gap really coming down pretty quickly. 6.5 seconds last time around. So they're just looking to see if Vela has that opportunity to try and charge after Page. Still need about 9/10 a minute, which is going to be a huge ask for Dean Vela, but he's doing the best that he possibly can. All with a commanding lead, of course, not one to kind of put some weight on the shoulders of George Page, but already you see that shutting the gap down to 2/10 within the first sector. Of course, they're now heading through the first Lesmo and then on toward the second with that number 7 of George Page, really working the steering wheel, really working to keep the car nice and smooth, keep it on the rails. But then you've got Dean Vela, who's using every single ounce of the track and more, and still trying to use the candlelit flame underneath him to try, or within him, to try and see if he can latch onto the gap here. He'll cross the timing being very, very soon, and he'll shut that gap down. Well, actually, no, I think that might be an extension of the gap there for Page. So it's Vela starting to run out of steam here. In fact, he has. I've just managed to clock onto the time. 6.5 seconds now at the gap. So Page has actually managed to find a little bit of pace as well. And Vela, I think, is starting to run out a little bit of steam. The victory is starting to become in sight here for George Page. He's just got a couple of minutes to hold on.
Yes, you'd be surprised though if he wasn't able to hold on because of how well he's done this race. And you mentioned earlier he was just conserving surely, which is why that gap was coming down so fast. But Page just able to hold that gap at the top, and he's done incredibly well to stay there with, as you mentioned, the gaps. They're rather large at the moment. Page, he's not going to quite cruise home. He's going to do the next step up. He's just going to relax now if he can, and just try to maintain speed with Vela. Vela will have to gain over 1/10 a minute to have any decent chance of challenging for the end of this race. He's gained 2/10 in that final sector. So it's not all over yet, but you just feel as though Page has some of that pace in the bank. And he's going to be able to exploit it at the end. Maybe just a little bit, as you mentioned, fuel saving for George Page here, as he just tries to cross the line. A comfortable victory for him, but Dean Vela not too far off. You can see how close he is by the fact that they exited the Lesmos at not similar times, but not too far away as well. That was a 2-second gap visualization between Manduka and Muscat. Muscat, who is just not quite on the pace of Manduka today. Manduka and Vela a class above the rest in terms of their qualifying pace, and then those two and Page have just been a class above the rest of the field for this entire race.
It's really been a tale of kind of two halves as well. Like you say, there's been so much going on in this race. We've had Muscat had these early kind of skirmishes, getting involved in battles. He doesn't really want to. He's not quite been on the pace. He's not quite at the same pace he would in a GT3 car. And I think that Sheldon Muscat we know that he's an absolute force in a GT3 car, but when we come to brand new gear, it really does kind of level the playing field. I give an idea that some drivers do enjoy better vehicles than others. Then you've had Adrian Manduka, who has made his own mistake, and really just had his kind of his own to blame for that one. He's had a very lengthy pit stop, which has not helped his cause either. Then you go on to the likes of Dean Vella, who's had to really fight from behind after his early skirmish with George Pard. When they collide into this very corner, the Segunda Variante, head their way toward the next sequence of corners. Dean Vella, of course, has been a man on a mission, trying to close that gap down to 4.9 seconds, but it just seems to be a little bit out of reach. But I think he can be proud of the work he has done today. It has been a real test of attrition and, of course, real fight within deep inside, because it's so difficult coming from that far back, feeling like you've been given a disadvantage as well, feeling like you've been given a bad set of cards, but he's managed to play them out right here and got a good result out of it. If you just keep it on the tarmac, then George Pard has played his race to perfection. Of course, making that move very early, being very lucky with the mistakes being made around him, and he's just going to now try and work his way onto the next couple of corners and on towards that will potentially be the very last lap, and very soon. But yeah, you can see there now Dean Vella is trying to slow that gap down once again. 4.9 seconds with the last time he'll cross that timing beam. We will now say 4.5, but it's just not quite what the doctor ordered, and I think he'll have to try and wait until Misano to potentially sense victory once again, and you can watch that in 7 days time.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to going to a track that's maybe less appreciated, at least by the single-seater world. Misano, a great circuit that F1 raced on during those COVID times, but one of those circuits that it's just going to bring a lot to this championship. We've had a lot brought by the drivers. We've had some circuits that brought some decent stuff, and now we're going to head to Misano. We've got 1 minute 37 left, so likely to be just over 1 lap of George Parge's pace to the end. So that'll be 2 laps in total. If your maths is not up to speed, I'll do it for you. Just 2 laps left of this 20. It will be 25 laps around the Monza circuit, and Page at the moment is looking as though he's going to be the man to take that victory. Vella was 4.6 behind in the first sector, and then after, well, heading into the second sector is 4.2. I think having an extra lap actually will harm George Page's gap there at the top, but I don't think it will harm it too dramatically, or dramatically enough for Vella to close in and take that victory. He's going to come around the final corner now. Yeah, there we go. 45 seconds left on the clock. Page will cross the line. This is the beginning of the final lap of our Monza race here in the Maserati GT Challenge.
It has really been an incredible race. We've seen a lot happen in this race. We saw early skirmishes. We've seen dramatic overtakes. And this could be one of the best races we've seen in this season. It was a pretty quiet race compared to the first one around Imola. But Monza has really been one to remember. We will then head on towards, like you say, Misano in 7 days' time. Known for their GT racing. And of course, a little bit underprivileged. Speak today, it seems like. I can't say a couple of words, but I'll try and word that out. But the clock now hits 0 here at Monza, and George Page is really lapping up this last couple of corners here. He'll have Chris Gatt in the way, which is not ideal whatsoever, but I'm sure that Chris Gatt will be able to move aside for the potential race winner here. Dean Vella is also going to be on the charge here. You see that gap being brought down to 3.8 seconds. Gats will be dispatched by George Page, and for someone who is, well, we've seen in terms of pace wise, he has not been the quickest. He was 7/10 off the pole lap in qualifying, having a bit of a moment there through Ascari, and you just got to keep it on the road at this point. No risk being taken, but I think he just wants to get to that checker flag as quick as he possibly can, and I do not blame him, because George Pard will exit the final corner. The lights are flashing, the steering wheel is being vigorously turned. George Pard, you are a Malta GT Challenge winner. Oh, he must be absolutely lapping it up in his sim rig, and do so by any means. You are a winner, ahead of Dean Vella, who will take the fastest lap there, finishing 3 seconds behind. Adrian Manduka will fight back, but it's only 3rd place, ahead of Sheldon Muscat. But boy, what a race we had, and Monza will happily have you again.
Monza has duly delivered like we thought it would at the start. And for George Barge, he has taken that unexpected at the start of the race victory, but a very, very well-earned one for the number 7. Just keeping it under control and taking home that victory here in the broad daylight around the Autodromo Internazionale de Monza. What a race that was, and what a worthy winner George Page is.
Absolutely, a really, really well-deserved win there for George Page. I think if somebody said at the beginning of this broadcast that George Page would win, I don't think either of us would have agreed on that one, not even after qualifying. I want to go back to that opening lap where he made that move. He saw everyone just passing ahead of him, and he just managed to sneak through the gap and just thread the needle and be able to move his way into the lead. Just seeing that car move like absolute Moses through the middle of those cars, it was an incredible sight to see. And my God, is that a moment I would love to relive, because that was an absolute game changer. That really invited George Pard the confidence to go on and take that race win. Yes,
very, very well deserved win in the end for George Page. Very well deserved podium as well for 2nd and 3rd. They were 1st and 2nd in qualifying, and small issues just meant that they cost themselves that race victory. We've had that week break last week. We have no more week breaks. It is just pedal to the metal and foot to the floor from Monza. And we will head straight to Misano. What a race that should be. So make sure to join us for that on the 24th of February, next Monday, same time.
Absolutely. And of course, along the beaches of the Riviera di Rimini, of course, very close to the beaches, it'll be an absolute incredible kind of scene to be around. Of course, the GTs are very much well renowned around that as well, so it will be such a great circuit to be around, and I'm really excited to see what we're gonna have. I think that could be a potential for that race to be run at night. It's been run at night in the GT3 Championship, so why not give it a run in the GT2s? I think that would be a nice way to end the season, have a bit of fireworks as well, but and also a challenge for the drivers in this quite casual competition, and we try and bridge the gap for the next Malta GT Cup as well. So let's kind of talk about a little bit more than just our eventual winner, because yeah, Dean Vella had that very difficult moment, especially in the early stages of the race, and then of course the rest of the pack were very much making a couple of errors of their own. I think this also kind of opened the gap up a bit more for George Page as well, because it was just about keeping himself on the road at that rate.
Yeah, I mean, it was just about being there for Page and just waiting for that mistake that did eventually come from Dean Vella. So, I mean, he definitely had the pace over the rest of the field. He ultimately deserved that victory, Dean Vella. But a cruel, I mean, it was his fault. But a mistake snatched it away from him. And yeah, disappointing, I think, will be his sense after that race. But, I mean, he gets to go again next week, and he will get to go again in the championship lead.
It will be an absolutely incredible run, I think, and it'll be really, really worth joining us in Misano. Just getting that extra taste of Maserati GT Challenge action, the final run, the final 45 minutes before we then potentially head on to the next production with Velocity Esports Racing. Of course, this was, as I said, brought to you by Velocity Esports Racing Productions in collaboration with Gaming Malta, and a big thank you to our sponsor of Motors Inc., Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and JACAP. We will see you in 7 days' time on the beaches of Rimini, alongside the Adriatico, for Misano, the final round, the final 45 minutes of the Maserati GT Challenge. We'll pack the GT2s up and on to our next adventure. Until then, we'll see you later. Take care. Right.